I'm Melissa.
And I'm Lee, and we are busy mums, company founders, and all-round early learning nerds. Welcome to our podcast, Growing Little Humans.
Kids aren't born with a user manual, so each week we'll try and cover many topics that you guys encounter and worry about each and every day while you're raising your little humans.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, Lee.
Again, just us today.
Just us today.
It's always interesting, like some days we have guests and some days we don't.
Yep. Some days we don't.
So today we're here to talk about how do parents go about choosing a nursery for their children, and it's a really big one, isn't it?
It is a really big one.
Why do you think it is so important? It's such an important decision.
I think it's really important because it's really setting a foundation for your child's readiness, school readiness, and then obviously your child's, overall emotional and social well-being. So really setting some foundation blocks for their future educational experiences.
And it's their first taste, isn't it, of education?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's their first, so you want it to be good because you want them to set that basis of loving going to school.
Yes, yeah, and you want that to continue, obviously, as they continue to go through school. So I think it's really important to spend the time and have a look around and see what's available so that you really make an informed choice.
Yep.
Yes, because we don't want people to go to a nursery and then move their children because they, for whatever reason, they're not happy or they don't feel their child's thriving. So I think it is really, really important decision, yeah.
So as our early childhood expert, Mel,
no pressure.
What are the key differences between a nursery, a daycare centre, a preschool? What are the differences between those?
So I think nursery school is more your 0 to 3-year-olds space, and then your preschool is 3 to 5-year-old space, and then you had daycare centres, which in the Middle East they're known for being like drop-off centres, creches, hospitality centres, and then they've usually got flexible hours, and it's a little bit more of just a play-based, not an educationally based program.
Yeah,
so
I think that's
a
key,
really key part of it.
Is it educationally based or is it not? And I think as soon as you go into an educationally based program, that tells you about the qualifications that should be there for those educational staff.
For your staff, definitely.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing. So at the moment, obviously, there's so much talk about that before you're looking at more educational programs in your 3 to 5-year-old space, but best practice and current research is all based around that should be starting from 0 to 5 now. Yeah. So that's exciting time.
And so what factors do you think that parents should be looking at when they're trying to choose their child's daycare, nursery, early learning centre? What are the things that they should primarily focus on?
So I think a lot of the time parents will look at what's logistically feasible for the family and what works in with the family dynamic. So you're looking at, are they close? Location. Is there a close location? You don't want your little one in the car for too long. Want to have a look at your costs, at how expensive it's going to be, and then obviously the hours. Does that fit with the family dynamic? And then your children's age and their developmental needs, things that they're interested in. Is especially a lot of boys, they want to have time that they can be outside and play and things like that. So that's definitely something that looks into it. And then we really want to look at the educational parts. We want to look at what curriculum are they operating with?
Delivering.
What are they delivering? What are the qualifications of your educators? And then what does the program look like on a day-to-day basis? What's the structure of the program? Is there a time for them to develop some academic skills and lots of play, and then be able to develop those independent skills as well through having their snack and their lunch and coming in and out.
And then I think it's probably also important factors is the educators, what their qualifications are.
Really important.
The space, is there a good space ratio?
Yes.
And because I know in Australia we have very strict standards, and most countries have standards on, how many square metres per child there should be. And then the other one was the quality of the facility itself, and also the equipment and the resources, if they're really run down or if they're broken.
And if there's a lot of resources there with a lot of choice. They call it agency with children. It's just choice. So you want to be able to develop a sense of agency, and you can't develop that when there's not enough resources that they're interested in as well. So that's really, really important as well. So, and I always talk about, you know, go in and have how you're feeling, how you feel about that centre. And again, we talked about this before, a lot of parents will go in and they're looking for something that they had in their experience. But like everywhere in the world and everything in the world, education's evolved since we all went to school. So I think go and have an open mind to what.
And the same as when we're talking about school. Like if you have got a child that's extremely active and the centre that you're looking at doesn't have very good playground facilities, then that would be, to me, an immediate no, because your child has to run off that energy.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of individual factors as well, isn't there?
And I think that also tapping onto that shows that the centre knows what they're doing, because we know that having space, having outdoor space, having enough of that space develops certain skills in children. So
and imagination play.
Absolutely. So if you don't have enough space for them to run, jump, hop, skip, whatever, then that's not going to develop those gross motor skills for the child, because you haven't got that space. So it's you know, the people that are running it know what they're doing, because they've allocated certain space to develop certain skills within the child.
And not everybody kind of recognises that their educational development, or developmental milestones in the early years.
Yeah, they're really, really important.
That's so important, the coordination skills. Yeah,
they're really, really important. And physical, like you're, you know, standing on one foot, jumping, hopping, skipping, but then you've got your hand-eye coordination skills as well, which are really important from, you know, your play and things like that, which is groundwork for being able to pick up a pencil, etc., down the track.
And Mel, so when a parent goes and does a school tour, what questions do you think it's really important for them to be asking the director of the centre, or, you know, the registrar of the centre? What are the questions you think should be asked?
I think you really want to have a look, we talk about this a lot, is look at the timetable so that you can have a copy of that at home. You can discuss that with your child as a conversation starter. It's very, very important. So what does the structure of the day look like? Is there enough balance in there? There's enough time for them to eat, nap, do the things that,
play.
You know, play, you know, and where are those spaces? Are they moving from their classroom to the outdoor play to where, you know, another area? They're not just in their classroom the whole time as well. I think a big thing is, you already touched on this, is your educational qualifications and your ratios. So how many teachers are there to how many children? And I think that's really important. It does look different in different age ranges, but you know, that's something very, very important, to make sure that they're sticking to those ratios, because you want to have accurate and adequate supervision for your child. So if something happens, someone's seen it and they know what's happened, or they can intervene and be able to support the play and the learning that's happening as well. And again, I think another thing is communication. Again, how is their progress being monitored? How is their progress being communicated with you in formal and informal settings?
How is the nursery or the daycare centre going to be communicating on a daily basis with parents? I think it's really important, because if they make it easy, if they have good communication tools, then that's going to make your life easier as a parent, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so, Mel, obviously children's development, some of it's educational at this stage, but also, some, you know, holistically, a child, there's social and emotional and cognitive development as well. So how can we make sure that what questions can we ask that are ensuring that, you know, a centre is actually holistically looking at the development of a child and their needs at this stage?
So I think at the end of the day, it's all about balance. So like you said, it's not just all about academic. It's, are they, you know, developing the child's overall growth? And to do that is by providing those opportunities for them to do that. And in the early years, that's through their play. So, and then again, how are they assessing that? How are they documenting that to be able to share that with you? A lot of the time people can have a list of developmental milestones that they're just ticking off just to sort of to check what's happening. How are they interacting with their friends? Are they forming friendships? Are they following the rules of the classroom? Normally, even with the little ones now, we call them agreements. So there's agreements on how we all will behave and you know, respect each other and support each other. So I think that's something that's very, very important. As well as, I think you want to look at how are your staff interacting with your children. Really, really important as an educator is that you're always being watched, and you're always, you know, you're scaffolding the learning for the children, but they're looking to you, how you behave is how they're going to behave, and that's, I think that's very important. So have a look when you're doing your tour, how the educators engaging with the children, and how are they disciplining the children is very important. And do you think that's going to be a good fit for how your families, you know, your family values?
It's actually, when we talk about the holistic development of children too, it's about promoting independence. It's which goes through to their toilet training, and I think ensuring that the centre perhaps has programs in the place to support parents at home with the development of their children, so that there's consistency between the daycare or early learning centre and the home.
Yes.
At the Wishing Tree, we have, safe sleep programs. We have a whole toilet training program. And, we've developed those with industry professionals and we share those programs with our parents. And I think it's those types of things that ensure that we are definitely focused on educational development of the children in our care, but we're also looking at holistically at their whole growth and to ensure that we are preparing them for that transition through to elementary.
And we always talked about the parents that, things don't work in silos. So everything's working and growing. And as we know, there's so much going on when children are 0 to 8. So they're interconnected. You can't disconnect them. And also, if children learning, they have to feel in a safe environment where they're feeling nurtured and cared for as well. And if a child wants to come and they're making friends and they're eating well and they're getting to nap and they're having all those needs being met, then they will make progress academically, as well as develop all those important skills that they need.
So Mel, finally, what are perhaps some red flags that you think, might indicate that perhaps this is not the right nursery or daycare centre for your child?
So no big order, because these are all sort of very, very individual and very important. But I think safety is just so important. Yes. You need to be able to leave and go to work or go home or wherever you go and feel confident that your children are safe and being cared for, and that's just so important. And I think another really important thing is communication. As an educator, that is just so vital. It's just a critical component. So what is the communication like? Do you know what's going on a day-to-day basis? And can you plan your life around some of the events that are happening? Yeah. And another thing would be turnover of staff, because if staff are being constantly turned over, it's really not good for the children. They like to come to school and they like to see the same person every day. And then year after year, a lot of the time, as a parent, parents would sometimes request me because I'd taught their child previously. Yeah. And I think that says a lot about what's happening within the culture of the centre.
Yes, it can indicate there's not a healthy culture.
It's not, no. And if people aren't, and we know if you're not happy to go to work, how that sort
goes to your performance.
It goes to your performance. Yep. And in the education sphere, we need people that want to be there and they're happy to be there and they're feeling valued as educators. Yeah. And that's really, really important.
So at the end of the day, Mel, I guess after you've been through that whole process, you've gone and evaluated the centres, that might be good candidates. And then I think you just have to trust your gut, don't you?
100%.
You have to trust your instincts. And then just, you've done all your due diligence. You've laid the groundwork, and then you just have to make the choice that you think fits your family best.
Yes. And I think, like we said before, really make an informed decision, because you really do want your child to go there and be settled, and so that they're not moving from place to place, because routines is just so critical at this age, in the home and obviously in the centre as well. So trust yourself, your child, and we'll definitely share some things for you to look at in the show notes for parents to have a look at and use as a guide.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, take that as a guide when you go in there. But I do agree with you, and I used to say that to parents when I would tour them a lot. Go with your gut feeling, and is this a safe environment for your child, and that they will grow and develop and thrive.
Great, and we will share on the show notes some of the tools and the websites and resources that might be handy for parents to refer to. And we've done a checklist up for questions that you can ask potential centres, so that might help parents take that along and ask those questions.
Yeah, websites are good these days too. They're a good starting point, but then always really go and have a look and follow up that information you found on the website and see what they're saying. Is that actually what they're delivering? I think it's really, really important.
Great. Well, I hope we've been able to help parents to think about a few things they should look at and help make that decision a little bit easier. Yeah.
And I think this will generate some more questions, so please send them our way. We're happy to answer them on the podcast.
And here come the legals. Our podcast is purely brought to you for educational and entertainment purposes. We are just two hectic mums, and we are certainly not licensed therapists.
This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of licensed or qualified professionals, and if you do need some help, please seek out some professional advice.